Clyde Smaldone was a prominent figure in organized crime, particularly in Denver, Colorado, where he and his family ran the notorious Smaldone crime family. The Smaldone family was deeply involved in illegal activities such as bootlegging, gambling, loan sharking, and racketeering from the early 20th century well into the latter half of it. The family's influence spread across Colorado and into other cities, though Denver remained their primary base of operations. Early life. Clyde "Flip-Flop" Smaldone was born on December 8, 1906, in Denver, Colorado, to an Italian immigrant family. His parents had moved to the United States from northern Italy in search of better opportunities, like many Italian immigrants during that time. Clyde grew up in Denver's North Side, a neighborhood predominantly populated by Italian Americans. His upbringing was influenced by the environment of poverty and ethnic discrimination, which many believe pushed him and his brothers, Eugene "Checkers" Smaldone and Clarence "Chauncey" Smaldone, into a life of crime. Rise to power. Clyde Smaldone and his brothers began their criminal careers during Prohibition, 1920 to 1933, a period that saw a surge in bootlegging and illegal liquor distribution. The Smaldones made their name by running bootlegging operations in Denver and the surrounding areas. Denver, along with cities like Chicago and New York, became hotspots for gang-related activities, and Clyde quickly rose through the ranks of organized crime in the region. During the 1930s and 1940s, Clyde Smaldone expanded his criminal enterprises. The Smaldones were not as violent as other crime families like the mafia families of New York or Chicago, but they were ruthless when needed. Clyde oversaw illegal gambling dens, loan sharking operations, and protection rackets in Denver, Pueblo, and even in other cities like Kansas City. His family's influence was vast in the Colorado underworld, and they maintained power through connections to other organized crime families across the U.S. Criminal activities and influence in other cities. While Denver remained the epicenter of Clyde Smaldone's operations, the family also held influence in other cities, particularly through their gambling and loan sharking networks. In Kansas City, Missouri, Clyde maintained relationships with the Italian mafia, helping to facilitate mutual interests in illegal gambling. In Las Vegas, Clyde and his brothers were rumored to have been involved in financing casino operations and laundering money through the booming gambling industry. While the exact nature of Clyde's involvement in Las Vegas is unclear, organized crime families often had a presence there during the mid-20th century. Clyde's connections to Chicago's powerful outfit crime family also solidified his standing in the national criminal scene. His dealings helped shape Denver as a key location in the western U.S. for organized crime activity. Murders and violence. Though Clyde Smaldone was known as a calculated businessman, he and his family were not strangers to violence. The Smaldones were suspected of involvement in various murders and disappearances tied to their criminal activities, though the family maintained a lower profile than more violent families like the Chicago outfit. There were rivalries with other organized crime groups in Colorado, but Clyde and his brothers managed to keep themselves relatively insulated from large-scale gang wars. Some notable incidents of violence attributed to the Smaldones were hits on rival bootleggers and those who attempted to encroach on their gambling operations. However, specific records of murders directly tied to Clyde are sparse due to the family's careful management of their criminal empire. Decline and legal troubles. The 1950s and 1960s saw increased pressure on organized crime families from the U.S. government, especially with the formation of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. The Smaldones were no exception. Clyde was arrested multiple times throughout his life, facing charges related to tax evasion, gambling, and racketeering. In 1968, Clyde was convicted of tax evasion and served a prison sentence. This marked the beginning of the decline of the Smaldone family's influence in Denver. Though Clyde attempted to maintain control of the family's operations, law enforcement and internal tensions weakened the Smaldones' hold on organized crime in the area. By the 1970s, the family had lost much of its power, and Clyde, now aging, receded into the background. Later years and death. In his later years, Clyde Smaldone became less involved in direct criminal activity, likely due to both the law enforcement crackdown and his advancing age. He passed away on January 8, 1998, at the age of 91. Documentary and legacy. Clyde Smaldone's life, along with the broader story of the Smaldone family, has been the subject of various documentaries and books, the most notable being Smaldone, The Untold Story of an American Crime Family by author Dick Kreck. This work details the rise and fall of the Smaldones and provides a glimpse into the underworld of Denver in the 20th century. In documentaries, Clyde is often depicted as a criminal mastermind who was both respected and feared. His family's criminal empire left a lasting legacy on Denver, shaping the city's organized crime scene for decades. Though Clyde Smaldone's life may not have been as violent as other mob bosses like Al Capone or John Gotti, his criminal activities deeply impacted the communities where he operated. Today, his name is synonymous with Denver's underworld and serves as a reminder of the Italian-American mafia's reach beyond the typical strongholds of New York and Chicago. Thanks for tuning into Sika True Crime Docs. If you enjoyed this story, Don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating tales. Your support helps us keep bringing these stories to life. See you in the next episode.